What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the tower. So today I'm going to be going over the module assist system. I'm going to first just kind of explain it, and then I'm going to get more in depth into like each upgrade and kind of like what's actually good and what's not that good, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get into it. So the basic point of this system is to just be able to let you use 4 extra modules. Most of the time they're not going to be at 100% efficiency though, since you do have to upgrade everything with stones. So you have to separately buy each slot for 1,000 stones, and once you do that, you can upgrade the unique effect, which starts at epic. Even if you do have the module like at ancestral, for example, it will show it as epic, and it will show your substats and your multiplier correctly if it is in the slot, which is actually pretty nice. As you can see, even though I have my negative mass projector at ancestral, the unique effect is only at epic, only doing 1% per hit. And then there's also the multiplier and substat efficiency. The multiplier efficiency just lets you use the percent of the actual like stat multiplier on your module. And then the substat efficiency lets you use a percent of your substats. So the only problem with the substats is that if it's a stat that can't actually like have a fraction, they will round down. They don't not round up. So actually all 3 of these stats, the Death Wave Quantity, Golden Tower Duration, and Spotlight Angle, can't actually have fractions, so they're all going to round down. The main thing is the Golden Tower Duration here, since it would round up if it could, but yeah, I only get 2 extra seconds. So I'm getting 1 Death Wave Quantity here, 2 extra seconds of Golden Tower Duration, and 5 Spotlight Angle from this. I have a 36% substat efficiency there. You can upgrade the unique effects 3 times. They start off at epic when you unlock the slot. Then for 1,000 stones, you can get it to legendary. For 1,200, you can get it to mythic. And I think the last one is 1,400, which gets you to ancestral. And then for each, the multiplier and the substat efficiency, you can each get them to 70% with just stone upgrades. And to do that, it's around 8,000 stones for each individual upgrade. And you can get the last 30% from labs. These labs are extremely long and expensive though. I think at this point they're already up to around 7 days each, even just at level 2. So I wouldn't bet on the labs helping too much, but they will give a little bit of value. I'll go a little bit more in depth into each one as well. So the unique effect bonus is pretty variable on if it's actually good or not. It kind of depends on the module. For example, a lot of modules just have base extra effects that aren't actually determined by the rarity of the unique effect. So for example here, Flamebond is always going to deal double damage to enemies, no matter what the rarity is. The only thing you would be getting here is the extra bot range. So a lot of the time you can actually just keep your unique effects at epic. It's just pretty dependent on what modules you want to use, since you really don't need higher than epic for like a lot of the modules. For the multiplier efficiency, one of them actually works differently than the rest, and that is the generator. So the primary and assist slot for your generators actually multiply. So this number will multiply with this number, and that will equal your coin bonus. As you can see, I get 3.1 from modules. So that's really nice actually. The other 3 are actually additive. So 0.039 is just being added to this, just to give you a little bit of extra damage. It would be more if I had it higher, of course. And then the substat efficiency, I kind of already talked about what I wanted to say here. Mostly about the rounding, but also the fact that you need to account for needing the actual module to be leveled to be able to use the substat. So mainly for like these 3, since the multipliers are additive, if you get a substat in one of these last slots that you want to use, then you're going to have to level the module a lot higher than you might want to. You might lose some damage from the multipliers on each module. So that's something to definitely think about when you're rolling modules. It does make it a little bit tougher. So now I'm going to talk about the value of each specific upgrade. For the unlocks themselves, not including any of these upgrades, all 3, armor, generator, and core, are actually pretty good value, just at the unlock. Cannon, not quite as much. It still like helps a little bit, but if you leave the module just at the unlock level, kind of like I did for the armor here, then you're relying completely on the ability. It's going to completely depend on the module's unique effects, if the unlock's actually good or not. And since there's really not that many super good cannon unique effects, it's not going to be quite as good value. The main ones you could get value out of are probably Astral Deliverance, because you get the 3% bounce range extra at any unique effect rarity. Maybe also Shrink Ray, 10% less mass on enemies. And then maybe Death Penalty. You can still have a 5% chance to kill an enemy when they spawn. But other than that, it's not super good to just leave it at unlock. The multiplier efficiency is also really bad value, so I wouldn't put much into this. I did put a little bit in here just to test. I also did make the mistake of putting a lot into my core multiplier efficiency, since I didn't realize it was additive. It's around 1,000 stones. It does give me a little bit of damage, so it's not like the worst thing in the world. I'm getting 2.16 added to this. Not the best value. Some stat efficiency is okay on cannons. For the most part, you don't need to get the whole numbers for a lot of the stats. I think the main ones are multi-shot targets and bounce shot targets. Those would round down. But everything else shouldn't round down, I don't think. So you could potentially put some into the substat efficiency for a little bit of extra damage on a module that you have a lot of damage substats, like something like this. The value is not bad, but I would say there's a lot better upgrades than going into the cannon to start off. I would say there's a lot better value upgrades. So for the armor, the unlocks are actually really strong, I would say. Not quite as good for farming, but it's really solid for like milestones and tournaments. You have two really good options in Negative Mass Projector and Space Displacer. All you'd actually need is the unlock, and you can get both of those abilities at like a pretty good efficiency. Luckily, these two modules' unique effects start with pretty good value, even at the epics. So they're actually really nice to just have slotted in for tournaments. Ton of extra stuns with Space Displacer on like bosses and stuff. And then you can also slow down enemies pretty well still with a Negative Mass Projector. I would say the other three aren't quite as good value. This is still not bad, but I think Anti-Q Portal most people would want to use in their main slot. And then I don't think Wormhole Redirector or the Sharp Fortitude are quite as good. The newer modules tend to have much higher value at the Ancestral, so those aren't quite as good there. The multiplier efficiency is the same case as the cannon. It's just not going to be really good value because it's additive. The substat efficiency isn't too bad either, but once again, you do have to consider the fact that you need to level the modules. I think orbs is the only one that will actually round down here, but you do need to get it to 50% if you want one of those orbs, which is a pretty good amount of investment. Moving on to the generator. The unlock's really good. The main thing is going to be the extra coins you can get from the actual multiplier, since they multiply together. I don't think you actually need to upgrade the unique effect bonus, but it will be helpful. There's some solid options that have just base effects that are really good at Epic. Singularity Harness, for example. Pulsar Harvester is also one of those. It still won't be too hard to get the 100 reductions, especially with the attack speed fix. This is a pretty good assist slot as well. Galaxy Compressors, not bad either. It's 50% of the value of the Ancestral, but that's pretty good if you can use that as an assist slot. I don't think Project Funding is a good pick though, since like I said, the newer modules tend to have most of their value at the higher rarities. So this is only 1/8 as effective of the Ancestral. And if you are wondering if the unique effect bonus actually affects the substats, like for example, if I only have an epic unique effect here, will it automatically downgrade my substats to epic? The answer to that is no. So they're completely independent of each other. As long as you have your module at Ancestral with Ancestral substats, you will be able to get a percent of those substats. And multiplier efficiency is really good here, of course, like I've said. There's a lot of extra coins. It's really not too many stones. I think it's about 1,300 to get at this point. A little bit more than that. But even at 15 or 20%, that's way less stones, but it's still really good value. Because it's multiplicative, you want to keep your primary and assist modules at certain levels each, just so you get the maximum value. I'm going to leave a tool in the description that you can use to find the exact levels that will give you the most coins. You just have to put in all your info, and then it will tell you what the best levels for each module will be to give you the highest module coin bonus. Some stat efficiency is also really nice on generators, since it can help both economy and like tournament pushing, since you can also get more enemy health level skip or enemy attack level skip from this, so it can be helpful in both ways. And lastly, we have the core. This one's about the same value as the generator at unlock. You're mostly going to be unlocking the core for the substat efficiency though, since core substats are very strong. I think unique effect bonus is also pretty good to upgrade. With the Alm Chip rework, like I've said, the value is mostly at the higher rarities, so it's going to be better value to get this up to maybe legendary or mythic if you want to use that. Harmony Conductor is actually pretty good value though, even at epic. It's already 50% efficient compared to Ancestral here, and that's a pretty solid chance to miss just for having that unlocked. Magnetic Hook, not quite as much. It's 25% as efficient as the Ancestral. On the Dimension Core, it's also 25% efficient actually, but you do get a lot of extra value from the other buffs it gives. So you always get a 60% chance of Chain Lightning hitting the initial target, and then Shock Chance and Multiplier is also doubled, no matter what the rarity is. You just get less of the Chain Lightning stacks on each enemy. But kind of similar to Anti-Cube, I think a lot of people are going to be using Dimension Core as their primary module. Maybe for farming, you could use it in the assist slot, just for some extra damage. If you're using something else that you already have rolled, in my case, that would be MVN. I could potentially get another Dimension Core in here and put some substats on it and get some more damage from that. Once again, multiplier efficiency isn't super good. Just because it's additive, it's not going to give you that much damage. It's not quite worth it for the value. And the substat efficiency is really strong though. And similar to Generator, the good part about the substat efficiency for Core is that it can help both farming and tournaments or milestones. It just depends what substats you actually use. For example, I kind of have my Alm chip set up for farming here. Mostly I have farming substats and I get pretty good value out of those. But for my Harmony Conductor, I actually have this set up for tournaments. So if I switch this to the assist slot right now, I'm getting a bunch of extra stuff for my Poison Swamp and Chain Lightning, also a little bit of Spotlight Angle, and if I level this up, some Spotlight bonus as well. So the core substat efficiency is super versatile. It's going to be hard to go wrong if you upgrade this. And lastly, I'll talk about the general progression of what you might want to unlock first and what upgrades you would want to go with first. So for your first unlock, you want to either get Generator or Core unlock. They're both really strong. I would say Generator leans more towards economy than helping for tournaments or milestones. And then Core leans the other way. I would say it's closer to 50-50. If you do unlock Generator first, both the multiplier and the substat efficiency are good to upgrade. I kind of upgraded them together. I have them both at 27%. And the unique effect boost isn't super important, so I would definitely hold off on that. If you do unlock the Core first, you're mostly just wanting to upgrade substat efficiency. Kind of like what I just talked about, how it's super versatile and is really strong in general. I would say the unique effect boost is a little bit better value on the Core, but not too much. You can still hold off on this if you want. So eventually you want to have these two unlocked and mostly upgrading multiplier efficiency for Generator and then both substat efficiencies, since those are probably the best value upgrades in the entire system. After getting these three in a decent spot, I would say unlocking the armor is going to be good, just to get the value out of the unique effects for some of the modules there. But after that, I would say there's a lot of ways you could go. You could keep working on these three. You could maybe work on the unique effects for these two. Could also start getting into the armor substats, since there's some really good substats there. But you probably don't want to unlock Cannon for a while, since it's just pretty underwhelming if you don't upgrade it at all. It doesn't really help too much. I did just go ahead and unlock it just to have it. This is pretty low value overall. You could do some substat efficiency here just for more damage, but that's really the only thing you would upgrade it for. It's not going to help for economy or anything. That's pretty much it. I don't think there's really anything else here. It's a pretty simple system. It may seem complicated at first, but it's not too hard to understand after getting some experience with it. So yeah, if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. And yeah, see ya.